All right, well, you didn't think it would be a Saturday and no pocket change market report. Well, I have a little bit of a swerve curve for you. We're back, baby. So, welcome back to the pocket change market report for October 28th, 2023. All right, we're going to dive right into some of these errors and varieties that folks like you have been finding out there in circulation land, whether it's going through coin rolls, you're at the show, pretty big show going on this weekend. Maybe you've heard about it. The IMAX show. A lot of people are, attending that as kind of like the pre-holiday appetite type of show. But yeah, you can find a lot of great stuff there as well. Cherry picking is a very big thing today. Just being able to identify one of those errors and varieties that maybe the dealer had overlooked. You could buy it pretty reasonably, if not cheaply. And then you could do things like add it to your collection, make it a statement piece, or simply just go ahead and resell it, which what I love doing as a way of, kind of making extra money during the holidays. This is the busiest time of the year for roll hunting as well. So if you haven't done so, get into it because it is hot, baby, and everybody's doing it. So we don't talk about graded coins on the list. It's just a needed expense. Oftentimes you're going to see yourself spending $30, $40, $60 to grade an error coin. And, it just really doesn't make any sense sometimes when you could just sell it and, keep that money in your pocket so that way you can make more on the sale. That's important. And, it is what it is. Yeah, I would say 99.9% of the coins out there doesn't need to be graded. All right. All of the photos that you're going to see here from eBay are all original to the seller's listing, so we didn't doctor or juice any of these photos. You're going to get simply the best and the worst photos that eBay has to offer on these coin sales. So I look forward to talking to you about this one. We have a pretty good list. A lot of new coins that we've never addressed personally on the PCMR. There's always at least one. So it should be a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys, see a little bit of inspiration to do some extra hunting of your own in the coming weeks. So thank you guys for tuning in. Let's go ahead and jump right into this list. Let's see what we got. All right, kind of kicking things off here. We have a few relatively inexpensive, but still very important to collectors. 1999. Lincoln Memorial cent. This is what they call a broad strike error. As you can see, the coin is a lot larger than what an actual standard Lincoln cent would be. And this is a collar issue. The collar something was wrong with the collar where it wasn't activated up around the planchet during the striking process. So a lot of the extra metal flow goes outwards. I would say this coin is probably as big as a nickel right now. As you can see, it looks like there's some doubling on Lincoln's face. That's simply just the split plating during this type of strike. There's going to be a lot of stretching involved, and seeing as how that copper plating is razor thin, it doesn't take much for it to split apart and create some pretty neat anomalies like what you see here. This one right here ended up selling for $28.38, even though this is a very common date for both broad strike errors and off-center type errors. If the coin is really nice and presentable with very little problems, they'll still command quite a bit of money on the secondary market. So good to see this one here. There's a little bit of a side-by-side, or 1999 broad strike next to a regular Lincoln cent that is perfectly struck with a full rim. All right, so pretty cool difference in size right there. The next one that we have here, actually, albeit one of the coolest ones I've seen on paper money in a while because it's on a much more modern note. This is a non-colorized big head 1999 $5 bill. You can see the overprint slightly shifted down and to the right a little bit. They call this a misaligned print, or simply put, the actual subject sheet was slightly, off kilter there when they are applying the overprint on this one. When we look at the reverse of the note, Yeah, it looks about as centered as what you can expect. It's not perfectly centered, and that's okay. It's still within the BEP tolerances for the margins. This one ended up selling for $102, scooped up as a buy it now type listing. And again, for those of you that say you can't find anything on the newer notes, well, this is a testament that you can't, let alone all of the different types of fancy serial numbers and rare print run star notes that exist in brand new paper money today. Look at everything, assume nothing. All right, here's one of my favorite dates to hunt through, 1960. This is a large date Denver. All right, you can probably see it. It's that strong. But there is dozens of repunched mint marks for this particular date, let alone a really notable double to die that features a, large over small date is what they call it, and it's also an RPM. But this one, folks, is a very well-known repunched mint mark. As you can see, the secondary Denver mint mark is punched a little bit westward here. I believe this is the RPM number 1. It's the big one. I believe it's the Cherry Picker's Guide as well. This one, easy to find, and they range in value. Like this one right here ended up selling for only $8.16. I have seen them go up higher than that. Again, it's all about circumstances. What does the coin look like? What time of the day did it sell? These are some of the things that all matter when we're reselling on eBay. So this is $8.16 with 7 bids. So it was put in as a regular auction, and it was organically bid up to that amount of money. In case you were wondering, this one did go cheaply, but it had a lot more opportunity to go higher because it was a regular auction. It might have been like a 1-day auction or a 3-day, which is not very favorable on varieties and errors. You traditionally want to go full 7 days on these type of listings, but in any event, such a nice one. I found these in circulation quite a bit. And again, there's a bunch of different RPMs. Check out websites like coppercoins.com, so that way you can see what the other repunched mint marks look like. Pretty one right here. This one is in beautiful shape. 1989 Denver, Washington Quarter. So this one right here is a little bit off center, but the seller also mentions that it's a partial tilted collar. All right, that collar keeps the coin in place during the striking process. If it's not engaged at all or it's slightly tilted, you're going to get things like this. So this one sold for $16.38. It's not a rare date. It's one of the more common Denver, Washington quarters that I've seen in off-center, broad strikes, things like this, partial tilted collar strikes, and all that great stuff. So not too bad. Something like this I'd probably sell all day long. And they're just a neat looking coin when you do come across them. Now here's a neat one here. Just to think that some neat original bankrolls doesn't exist anymore from the last year or two. Then you find something like this, and it really makes you wonder, wow, there really is something to be found out there. This is a full roll of 2021 Washington crossing the Delaware quarters. Now, observe the roll ender on this one. You're going to see that die chip on top of Washington's hat. This is kind of like the mid type of progression of the crown die chip that we all loved, especially last year when these things were selling individually as high as $200 and up. This is a full roll of the quarters. It's anybody's guess how many of these particular crown die chips exist in this roll. And that's kind of the speculation of it. That's the fun of the chase, the thrill, kind of like a gambler's premium with this particular roll. This one ended up selling for $76, keeping in mind that there's $10 in quarters in this roll. So this one sold for over 7 times its face value, which is just bonkers to me, and it gives you guys some insight as to how crazy this world that we live in, where bankrolls sell for a lot more than face value straight from the bank and into eBay's listings. All right, pretty similar to the quarter, although this one doesn't have a tilted collar. It's a 1966 Lincoln cent. This one is slightly off center, 10% or less. It's not particularly a rare date either. I've seen 1966 Lincolns that are slightly off center, but this one's here for the taking, and someone did scoop the buy it now button at $21.38. Now, don't forget, world coins can open up just a whole world of possibilities. All right, and it's affordable. You can buy bulk groups and bags of world coins for next to nothing. And what are we looking for? Well, we're looking for silver. Number one, there's a lot of times where people mistake the kind of like the low silver content coinage. There's some Mexico coins that have like 10-20% content of silver, which isn't a whole lot, and that tricks some people. But also varieties. Like this is a 1928 5 centavos from Chile. And check out the side with the date there. I believe they call this maybe the reverse or the obverse. I hear that the side with the date is traditionally the obverse of the coin. Wow, crazy doubling on this one. This is genuine hub doubling, folks. Not machine doubling. This is the real deal. And this is something that we see quite often on coins from Latin America, South America, where the overall mintage process isn't as quality driven. It's not as high and tight as it is here in the US. And I know what you're going to say. Well, we don't have the best quality either. Well, keep in mind, the production of coins is a human-based experience, right? As much as we like to believe that machinery is kind of like taking over what humans do, keep in mind, humans also maintain those machines, all right? They have to change out the dies. Like any machine, they go through wear and tear. They break down. They, screws get loose. You get the big picture, and it creates, some pretty remarkable looking coins. Even today, bearing the date 2023, there's a lot of great stuff to find. So this one right here, as dramatic as it is, it did sell for $28. All right. It doesn't seem like a whole lot. A comparable, say, Jefferson nickel with that kind of doubling will probably sell for 3 to 4x what this one did. Again, depending on rarity. It's always good to see these type of finds make their way onto eBay, and then, dedicated collectors really embracing them. All right. And they're paying the money for them. So we do have a couple state quarter cuts. All right. Don't forget, these exist. And there's a lot of them. They were very plentifully made. This is a 2001 Kentucky. Observe the mint markets of Philadelphia, but you can see the cud there on the reverse between 8 and 9 o'clock if we're looking at the rim. And this one sold for $16.99, which is a pretty good sale considering that it's not the best looking coin. Here's also a 2006 North Dakota. Again, another Philadelphia, another cud die break. This time, 4 o'clock position on the reverse, right there at the grass line, and right before you hit unum in E pluribus unum. This one sold for $17.99. There's a lot of different state quarters where you can find these cuds because the design goes almost all the way to the end of the rim there. And that's traditionally a weak area on the die. All right. So we do see a lot of breakage, a lot of the pieces of the die falling out, thereby creating these raised blobby anomalies on the coins. Really cool to see. Again, these are relatively newer coins that were produced on much modern machinery with a lot of computer-driven type of controls and automation to make it work. But keep in mind, it's a human-driven type of production. And don't forget that this one is out there. Hard to believe this thing's 4 years old already, but I remember when these were first discovered. It's a 2019 Lincoln Shield set. We call this one the good old X-ray eyes, right? Because it's got the phenomenal strike-throughs perfectly placed coming out of the eyes of Lincoln there on the obverse. This is referred to as a field-restricted strike-through, all right? It's a It's something that occurs when the, again, through wear and tear, the feeder finger actually makes contact with the top of the die. And generally, there's going to be some grease there that gets mixed around. So each one is going to have a unique appearance to it. This one right here sold for $19.95. The coin is actually in really nice shape for it being 4 years old, but keep in mind, there are more of these out there. They're not particularly rare. Well, this thing had a hard life, but we could tell that this is a 1919 Lincoln Wheat set with some pretty crazy lamination stuff going on the obverse. For the most part, there's a lot of detached area, but there toward the top of the coin on the front, you do see still an attached piece. This one ended up selling for $30.05. I mean, that is a abnormally high amount of money for a coin that looks well, pretty rough. This is a rough looking coin, but again, it's not my decision to say if how much something like this goes for. It's just good to see this one finally getting saved before it was lost forever. And here's a little bit older coin, by just a little bit, 1856 braided hair large set. You can see a pretty long rim cut there between the 2 and 3 o'clock position on the obverse of the coin. Rim cuts, quite common on large sets. So, with that being said, this one did sell for $36.99. I'd call it a fine 12 grade-wise. It looks to be problem-free, but again, this is an anomaly that occurs quite often on these larger coins. Again, consider the time period of the production of these monetary instruments, and you'll understand. Whoa, holy misalignment, Batman. Here's another one here, 1985 $1 bill. All right, this time the second print, that base print of the front of the note with George Washington on there, it's all misaligned. Right, the overprint with the district seals and the serial numbers are actually perfectly placed for the size of the note. When we flip the note over, you could see, again, it's slightly off center to the left, but well within the tolerances of the BEP. This particular note ended up selling for a staggering sum of $117.88 with 25 bits. Crazy. Again, the note has a few folds and wrinkles on there. It's not the perfect note, so it wasn't discovered until after it was in circulation for a little bit. And here's one we don't see too often on Canadian coins. This is a 1968. It looks to be just a regular base nickel composition for the date, because I know they do also 50% silver for 68s, and this one's not it. But check that out. It's got a nice little indent there, which means there were 2 planchets or 2 coins that were overlapping during the strike of this one here. All right, so there's another coin floating around out there in the world that's a direct, perfect fit to this one, unless it was found and destroyed. So this one here sold for $15.49, and that's with 8 total bids on this one. Surprised that it didn't go a lot higher, because traditionally these type of errors on Canadian coins are considerably more rare, and you have a very dedicated group of hardcore Canadian error enthusiasts that pay a ton of money for some of the most oddballish coins that you'll ever find. This is one of them right here. 1958 D Lincoln Wheat set, another good date to kind of scour through for repunched mint marks. This one was taken in a 2x2. Could always be better to take it out of the 2x2 and take the photo. It's going to be just much more clear. But let's take a look at that date. You're going to see that this one is a southern repunched mint mark, south of the primary mint mark. There's a lot of other arrows in the date. I don't really know why that's there. The ones that really do matter is on the mint mark. This one right here is RPM number 1 in the files, and it sold for $22.16. Here's a good-looking broad-struck 1978 Washington quarter. This is one for a collection out there that needs the date, right? Because these are collected by date. There's always going to be the completionist that wants one of each date of this type of error. Really nice, high-graded specimen. This one sold for $39.25. So, yeah, pretty nice. And I would imagine the wider the spread, or this one looks more like an uncentered broad strike, an uncentered coin with a full date and or mint mark, will command a ton of money from this era. There were a few of these crazy Edith Kanaka Ole die clashes, both from Kelly's Treasures, who's a friend of the channel. And you're going to be looking on the reverse of your 2023 Philly Edith quarters. But look, most importantly, at the ear hairline area of George Washington. You might find one with this really, really strong Edith clash. It's about, I call it a 50% clash, where 50% of Edith's name is clashed right there in that area. So this one right here sold for $99.99. I also want to mention that Kelly does have a little bit of a, some of the proceeds are going to charity through the sales of these quarters. There were two that were sold by Kelly. I'll tell you a little bit about the other one here momentarily. This thing's small. You blink and you'll miss this one. 1997 Lincoln Memorial Cent. Check out the small, tiny, cute little cut die break right below the date. It goes to the tip of Lincoln's bust area right there. Yeah, that's a cut. Yep, I know it's kind of hard to believe because it's so small and, you know, it's close to the rim, but it does go to the design, all right, which is what you want to see. This one ended up selling for $17.49 with 3 bids. The coin is in okay shape. Not the most highly collectible mint state red example that you'll find, but finding one, period, is kind of half the battle here. Here's our next piece of currency, this time a 1977 $1 bill. Again, we have a little bit of a misalignment issue. This time, similar second print to the other one that we have. So the base print of the front shifted a little bit south. That means the sheet shift was a little bit up here on this one. But the overprint is perfectly centered to the size of the note. When we look at the back, again, a little bit off center, nothing too crazy, well within the tolerances of the BEP. And this one sold for $23.50 with 19 bids. So a little bit of activity. Nothing too crazy. This is probably more of a minor error than anything else. Now, this one is incredibly cool. This one actually blew me away. By the time the dust had settled, this one sold for a pretty healthy margin of profit. 1954S, beautiful gem BU red, Lincoln wheat cent. You can see that die chip there. Straddling the R and T and Liberty, all right? Traditionally, they call these BIEs, or whichever combination of 3 letters. The die chip acts as a letter I in certain cases, but what do you call it when it's in this big gaping area between the R and T? You know, it looks like the state of Illinois is right there in the middle of those 2 letters. So this is the first time that I have personally seen this. You know, it might even be on Cuds on Coins' website. And that'd be cool, you know, because that means it was found before and, you know, attributed on that website, you know, which is kind of like the catalog for any CUD, die crack, die chip related type of anomalies on your coins. So this was a little bit of a shocker. This one ended up selling for $41.76, which traditionally I haven't seen any others that have sold for this kind of money. Whether it's a BIE or an EIR or any of those type of die chips that straddle 2 letters in Liberty. This one is a big one. Game changer. Here's another one of those Edith Kanaka Ole clashes. Kelly actually had a couple different photos this time around on this one. The previous one was a buy it now listing. This one was set up as a regular multi-day auction. All right, and same thing. Kelly did some of the proceeds to go to charity on this one. And that might sway the prices a little bit, but these have historically done really well. So make what you want out of it. But Kelly had sold this one for $128.28 with 11 bids. Just a remarkable sale, and if you're able to find this quarter with a much stronger clash, which shows about 75 to 80% of Edith's name on there, goodness gracious, congratulations. That I think the one example that did sell sold for like $400 or $500. So yeah, they're quite rare to find. I'm sure they were discovered after a while by a Mint employee, and the dies were subsequently either changed or cleaned up to remove this. And another one of these did sell. They're not $1,000 coin anymore, but just know that, it's still quite relevant. The good old Wilma Mankiller double-sided retained cut die break. These are Philadelphia coins, by the way. So this one right here looks pretty good. It's got some contact marks, a little bit of circulation wear. This one sold for $355.25. I'm telling you guys, still an expensive coin. And if you're in the southern part of the U.S. where these were distributed, you might be able to find one of these and make yourself some extra bonus cash for the holidays. And again, a very nice presentable example of a YDM Lincoln, this time of 2000. And this one, low-end mid-state red, not the most prettiest of coins, but this one I would be proud to put into an album, as the YDM. This one right here sold for $11.50. There's a little bit of a close-up. The close-up obviously is a microscope, USB microscope image. It's very crisp and clear, and this is what they normally look like. See the big gaping gap between A&M and America? That's what you're going to want to see. If you got good enough vision, this is naked eye visible as well. And the coin of the day has to be this 1970 Lincoln Memorial Cent. This is one of my dream finds when I do come across it. I've never found one before. This is not my coin. I wish I would have seen this. I would have scooped it right up. It was bought as a buy it now, best offer type of transaction. So it's a Philadelphia 70. It was double struck, flipped over in collar. All right. So the coin was struck once. It didn't eject properly. It actually flipped over on its other side. And then another strike occurred. So you have like the best elements of the reverse and obverse kind of like molding into each side respectively. One of the coolest, my opinion, probably the coolest there. An actual physical die cap or bonded cap with multiple coins, I think is still pretty cool. But this is kind of like the real one that I could see why this one made it out into circulation, whereas the die caps and all that, it's like, oh boy, backdoor job, like this they would destroy. So this coin, it's in great shape. You can tell it's been around the block a few times. It ended up selling for $330. I think it kind of suppressed the overall sale because you can't see the second readable date on the reverse, which would make it extra special and more valuable. I've seen these go for $500 to $1,000. So, pretty good score here, whoever got this one, and I'm a little bit jealous. I really ought to shop on eBay a lot more. Yeah, and that was a pretty big lottery find, too. It's like winning a huge scratcher. So we got 19 teens, Denver, Lincoln Wheat Cent, off-center by about 20-25%. This thing is really nice, even in its current condition. $99 was the sale price on this one. The older you get, the more these things are worth. And there are still crazy folks out there that are looking for these odd, weird, rare dates like this one. The more I look at it, it looks like a 1917D, which is a really scarce date for an all-center or broad strike. And the final item for today's PCMR, how about this 1953 $2 bill? And I'm willing to bet I know what color ink was supposed to be on the front of this one. This was supposed to be a legal tender red seal, but it also says legal tender there, right where that number 2 is there, just behind Jefferson's head. So, yeah, the entire overprint on this one didn't even make it onto the subject sheet, which happens. You know, sometimes the sheets will double up sometimes, or it'll just not go through the process of the print. So you'll get sometimes some of these notes that have completely missing overprint on there. And this one is actually in really beautiful shape. I would imagine this one was found really early on, you know, from the Fed Reserve Bank to the banks, and then, you know, found. Bam. Just like that. So this one right here, pretty nice. Again, raw example. I would not be surprised if it was purchased and sent to a grading company in the near future. But anyways, this one ended up selling for $313. I believe a best offer was accepted on this one. All right, guys. Well, here's our good old regular kind of fine print stuff. Video is for entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. You know, I'm not telling you to go out there and just pick up a handful of coins and then throw them on eBay. That's a little bit reckless. You got to know, by the power of information and education, what you have. All right, that's important. So make sure you collect and grade responsibly if that's your thing. But yeah, that was a lot of fun for today. Some good stuff for you guys to kind of ham over as we head deeper into the holidays. We're almost into the month of November, which ironically I think is the next time we will be doing a PCMR is on November 1st or 2nd. No, not 2nd. The 2nd is a Friday, I believe. But yeah, in any event, it's going to be a lot of fun. The holidays are going to be fun. I'll do some more roll hunting videos. Haven't done that in a while. But that's it, guys. That's all I got for you. Thank you guys for tuning in on this one. I'm your host, Sean, with BlueRidgeSilverhound. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this video and to this channel if you haven't done so already. I am out of here. I'm going to go do some stuff. And you guys take care. Happy hunting. And I'll see you on the next coin video. So long.